Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the National Sports Collection Show. And welcome to Wrestling Trading Cards at the National Year 2.
All right, yeah.
My name is Paul Anand. This is my partner, Tony Vella. We run a show every month. It used to be called What's Going On with Wrestling Trading Cards. We thought, no, we could do better. So we decided to call it Monthly Recap. We realized, we haven't really accomplished much there. Yeah, kind of went backwards, but we're pleased to announce today that starting next month, our monthly show, which we recommend everyone watching, is going to now from here be known as the 3 Count. So check us out every month on WTC TV. Before I pass over to Tony and introduce our panel members, I just want to give some quick shout outs. I wanted to thank the organizers here at GoGTS for setting us up and for recording us. I'd like to thank the organizers, Mr. Dan Burkus. A very special thanks to Ethan and David from Rip and Wax once again for getting us up here. And a couple of shout outs to people that couldn't be with us here today. Our buddy Chuckster, we miss you, buddy. Also special shout out to Zan Morning, who's done an incredible job. Guys like Tom, guys that have provided content to the hobby. Thank you very much. So I'm going to give it over to Tony. He's going to introduce you to the panel and we'll get it cooking. Tony?
Hi, I'm Tony Vella with WrestlingTradingCards.com. We archive every wrestling card ever made from the 1800s to current. Been doing it as a labor of love for over 20 years. Matter of fact, last year was our 20th anniversary last year, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm also the owner of a new wrestling-themed store in Phoenix, Arizona called the Wrestling Guy Store. I know it's a brilliant name, but it sticks. We bring in guests every month. We have all kinds of merchandise, but we're here to talk about the history of wrestling cards, what's going on today in wrestling cards. We've got a great panel of people up here. I'm going to kick it off right away already with talk with Adam Gelman over here. Adam, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody over here?
What's up, everyone? Adam Gelman. I am at WWE Gelman on Instagram, at SC Uncensored on Twitter, or whatever it's called these days. Super excited to be here. Thank you to Tony and Paul for putting this together. I know this is year 2. It's something that I've been really excited for. I've been covering it a lot on my Twitter account and a lot of the different areas that I'm on social media. This has been an incredible week already. Happy to be a part of this.
Next up I got, let's go ahead to your left over there. Mr. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing great, everybody. Ryan Shear, Non-Sport Showcase on Instagram. You've seen us on Wrestling Trading Cards on YouTube. Ab and I breaking down various Panini products, checklists, stuff like that. So it's going to be fun. Happy to be here.
And to my right here, I'd like to introduce Mr. Kevin Kulikowski from New York Roadshow, the one and only Mr. Drake Magruder, and Sports Cup Nobody, Shane Norton. So we're going to start with some questions. Tony, I'll give it back to you.
All right. Do you guys don't want to talk? Introduce yourselves? Come on, everybody get over here. Get over here, come on. Get in there.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Kevin. I work for the New York Roadshow, part of Roadshow Cards. We have shops all across America in New York, Texas, Kentucky, and California. And I am a big wrestling card nerd. So to be able to bring that sports card component to the wrestling scene is just an awesome thing for me. So we're super excited to be here.
What's going on, everybody? Drake Magruder at Drake's PC on Instagram. I've got my cheering section over here with the Card Ladder team. Thank you, guys.
All right. Let's go Card Ladder.
Yep, huge shout out to Card Ladder. Yeah, so I'm a huge wrestling collector. Learned about wrestling cards about 4 years ago. I also collect Peyton Manning and Drew Brees, but I've got a huge passion for wrestling. I grew up in the Memphis area, and huge wrestling fan, really love wrestling, so very excited to be here. It's my second national. 2021 I came and I actually saw the Card Ladder team and they were on the stage and I was like, man, that'd be really cool to be on the stage someday. Not sure what I'd talk about, and little did I know, 2 years later, I'm back and we're on the stage and we're talking wrestling cards. So this is awesome. I'm excited to be here and thank you guys for, thank you for coming.
All right, how do I get a cheering section? That's not fair over there.
I got
All right,
you.
Shane, we love you, buddy.
All right, I'm Shane Norton, a.k.a. the Sports Card Nobody, and if you guys are hot as hell out there, give me a hell yeah. We got to get some AC cooking in here, but yeah, big wrestling card nerd, can't wait to talk about this. This is going to be something.
So we're going to kind of break this down a little bit and talk a little bit about some different sections of the hobby itself. I think the main thing to really discuss right now is the growth of our hobby. you would have asked me about 5 years ago that we'd be sitting up here in the National talking about wrestling cards, I would have probably apologized you because it's just not something anybody really wanted to talk about. Since then, we've really kind of expanded the market a little bit and getting into things and jumping on, doing some YouTube stuff and finding out that other people really enjoy collecting wrestling cards. And, it's been a labor of love for me. I've been a collector for probably over almost 40 years now. And it's kind of an emotional thing for me to even be here because it's just come a long way for us. We're not just a little niche within a niche anymore. We're kind of accepted. The growth of our hobby has changed dramatically, especially since COVID, and so the impact of 2021 and going forward, people's perceptions of our hobby have changed drastically. And I like to really ask Adam, who's kind of on the forefront with this, I like to ask him a little bit about that and give us some perspective on that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and talk as loud as possible, so hopefully you guys can hear me. I know we're all kind of baking in here, but it's something that I have been excited about now for at least 3 or 4 months, planning every aspect of wrestling cards at this convention. I've seen people all over. My buddy Sean out there, hey, what's up, dude? We have a ton of people here from all over. I've met so many different people from, you name it, whether it's vintage, modern, you name it, everybody is here. And I think that is a victory in itself. And to see that wrestling cards have made it to the main stage again for the second year in a row is huge. And if you think about how things have progressed, I don't know, since 2019 even, where I joined wrestling cards a little bit later than these guys. I started in 2017, so it's been a little bit less time for me. But man, I remember coming in and being able to buy, cases of wrestling cards for the cost of a box of football cards. And now it's like seeing the growth in the hobby. There's been so many more things that you can accomplish with a community behind it, with the number of people behind it that we've been able to get over the last few years. And it's just been amazing to see, especially from the beginning of the Panini license, the end of the Topps license. There's been so much growth in people just talking to us, Instagram, Twitter, people all over the place. Always reach out. Hey man, I was always a wrestling fan. I love wrestling. I had no idea there were cards. And to see that now those people are coming in and being a part of our hobby, being friends that we talk to on social media all the time, get to see at these events. It's incredible to see.
It's been a really cool transition, a cool thing to see over the last couple of years. And Kevin over here, you too, you primarily have dealt with sports cards for so many years. But we were talking earlier, you get asked a lot about wrestling cards now. How do you address that with some of your customers and other fans that are coming in?
So really what we're seeing now is we saw the expensive sale of the Rock 1 of 1, right? Yep. And that was sort of the card that started the wrestling flame, right? And now wrestling has hit the mainstream for cards. It's cool again to collect wrestling cards. And you have the people who are looking at it from a sports standpoint. It was
cool? It was cool at some time? When was that?
No, it's cool now. It was cool at some point. I don't know. When I was a kid with my Austin 316 t-shirt, it was cool.
Such a baby.
But when you look at sports cards, it's more themed towards transactional, right? Everybody's opening sports cards now, and the first thing they're asking is, oh, what's this worth? Oh, am I going to make money on this? But the thing about wrestling cards is there is money in it now, but the collector base is a lot more passionate about what they're collecting. And so you don't necessarily see that, let me open my box, let me run to Card Ladder and figure out what my card is worth. It's, oh my God, I just hit an autograph. I love this wrestler. This is awesome.
It's been crazy, right? Yeah.
I'd like to just give a shout out to Drake. A couple of questions. Drake, you're known in our hobby as the big game hunter. The guy that spends the big bucks on the gold, the shiny, you, Brett McGrath. It's no secret that I'm a big fan of your Vince Superfractor. I honestly think that's the most valuable card in your collection, gold rocks aside. I'd just like to thank you, first of all, because a lot of guys keep this information close to their chest, but what you've done for the hobby is you share not only what you pay for stuff, but your motivations and what your methodology and how you got to the prices. Talk to us a bit about that, specifically on the Vince Superfractor, the Transcendent. Talk us through that purchase and how, because I remember you were quite surprised when you got it. And that to me is the holy grail of modern. So talk about the acquisition of that.
Well, I certainly appreciate the kind words. Yeah, it's one of those things where a lot of wrestling card collectors historically have just collected wrestling cards. They don't really see outside. That's correct. And so
What
they
did
don't
you guys
really
get, a $6 insert?
Yes. And so they don't really see outside the scope of wrestling cards. And so as someone who was into sports cards and got into wrestling cards, when I first came in, I just knew about the vintage type sets, and I didn't really know that there were chrome sets and finest sets and all that. And as soon as I discovered those, it was like all bets were off, because I knew what I liked in the sports sets, and I knew what had value in those sports sets, and it was the golds and the superfractors and the one-of-ones and the real rare and scarce type stuff. And then you get into wrestling, and that hadn't really hit yet. And I'm like, wow, you can go buy a Rock Topps Chrome Gold Refractor for like $80.
Well, you used to.
That blew my mind.
Yeah, you took care of that, Drake. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Drake.
Yeah.
That blew my mind that you could do that. It blew my mind, exactly. And so then fast forward a little bit, and I saw the Roman Reigns Topps Chrome Superfractor from 2014. So 2014 is, I guess, the first official release of Topps Chrome. There was a Topps Heritage Chrome sets and things like that. So that was sitting on eBay at a huge price for a long time. Well, I would see other modern prospect cards sell at the sports, and they were going for like $500,000. And I was like, if they're going for $500,000, this guy is the biggest star in wrestling over the last 10 years. And what I consider his first Chrome card and the best Chrome card in a perfect PSA 10 grade, and I can get that for $15,000, it's a no-brainer, right? And I wasn't buying it from like, oh, I can flip it and sell it and that kind of stuff. It just seemed like a great value proposition compared to what a Jason Dominguez, Superfractor was selling for $500,000. And so the thought process made a lot of sense. But I remember before making the purchase, to Ryan's point down there, I talked to a few friends like Brett McGrath and a guy named Joey, and I said, look, I want to make this purchase, but I feel like once I do, wrestling cards aren't going to be cheap anymore because they will have arrived on the main stage. So it was exciting.
Drake needs
for
to
me.
put that on a T-shirt.
Yes. And so it was one of those things where it was exciting for me to do it because I knew it would elevate wrestling cards, but I also know what it would do for like that segment of the hobby, right? And so then that happened, and then about 2 months later we had the release of Prism. Everybody knows what happened there, and things went sky high, boom. You had all the breakers coming in, and we saw what happened there. But I think the best thing about wrestling cards and collectors and all that is that the community aspect is what's awesome. And that's what I've grown to love the most. It's not about the values of the cards. And yeah, like we're all not ignorant that wrestling cards have value. But I've made more friends in wrestling cards and more connections. And I love helping people out that have questions in the hobby and things like that. But it's just been a lot of fun finding, those best cards of the athletes, whether it's Chrome or you get into 2021 Topps Transcendent. And some of those, it's the only known superfractor of certain people like Vince McMahon, right? You get into him. And so it's just amazing to see stuff like that and be able to, find value in certain areas. And like when I bought the Vince McMahon card, it was for sale for like $9,000. And I thought a case of 2021 Transcendent is $13,000. And there's 50 cases of it. So for me to try to get events, I'm gonna have to buy X number of cases and hope I pull that. Would I rather do that and chance it, or would I rather just go buy the card? And that's kind of the way that I've always been. I've never been one to go and like rip a bunch of wax or do a bunch of like gambling prospects. I just go buy the cards that I want. And that's kind of the way that that's what fuels my collection, so to speak.
Thank you for acknowledging the tribal chief and getting this all started.
You know what's crazy, Drake? If you think about it, between the Reigns Super and the Vince McMahon Super, those are really the two cards in the modern era, except for the Rock Black, of course, but those are the two that really got people talking.
Absolutely.
Like those, especially the McMahon one, because the McMahon price was like $10,000, $9,500, something like that. When that hit, people were like, someone just paid what for a what?
Yeah.
Well,
and I think,
remember, right?
I think now we look at it in July of 2023 and think, that was a pretty good purchase.
Yeah, looking back now, especially given that he's back in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Shane, can you hear me? We were talking a couple weeks ago about the philosophy of wrestling cards, and you said something very interesting to me that I thought would be very cool to share today, and that's about self-expression and how you, being from outside of wrestling, got back into wrestling, and you find that the cards that you collect are very much indicative of your personality. Talk a bit about that, how one's collection sort of reflects the collector himself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll try to make this, what you said I had like 10 minutes? I'll try to keep it around 9 minutes if that's all right. So when I got back into cards for the first time back in 2018, it was when I was marrying my wife, who's sitting right over here, who also designed this t-shirt. So thank you, Stacy, for that.
Yes.
We were getting married. I'll keep this as short and sweet as possible, but I was going to present some football tickets to her that I got for our wedding gift. So I was in a Target the morning of our wedding, hunting through a bunch of football cards with the women behind the booth. I found the Todd Gurley and the Aaron Rodgers cards I needed. They were dirt cheap back then. Great. So after the wedding, which was amazing, I realized these are kind of cool. I haven't had cards in like 10 years. I'm going to keep these. And I was specifically honing in on the Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley was like the MVP of my fantasy football league, right? And that started to kick off my journey back into cards. A card that meant something to me, a card that told a story. I won a fantasy football championship because of this guy. Now fast forward, pandemic hits, we all know what happened. I start diving back in, start with my Dodgers card, start with my 49ers cards, get a Jerry Rice rookie card. And then Brett McGrath, we've heard his name a few times up here already.
Shout out to Brett,
his
for sure.
podcast talking about wrestling cards. And I said, wait, what's up with wrestling cards? So I started to investigate that more. Then I discovered everything this guy was buying. And I started to discover everybody else up here. And I realized that the magnetic pull that the wrestling cards had for me was irresistible. I got up here earlier and I did the what? The give me a hell yeah, and we got the call back, right? We all remember that. We talk about Roman Reigns, like Chicago, Illinois. Acknowledge this panel up here. That stuff just resonates from the time you're a kid. The Hulkamania, brother. It lives with you just so deep. At least it did for me. So collecting for me always starts from a world of trying to tell a story, to have the sense of self-expression. When someone walks into my office, they're going to see a Bret Hart card, they're going to see another Bret Hart card, they're going to see another Bret Hart card, and then some baseball cards over here. And I want that to happen. I want people to come in and go, what is this guy like? What's something about him? You're going to get some sense of that from my card collection, and absolutely nothing that I have found grabs me the same way that wrestling cards do. And it's just like, that's the only thing I want to do now is collect wrestling cards. So I think I've had about like half the people up here on my podcast. Speaking to what he was saying earlier, the community aspect of this too, it helps tell those stories so much more. You're hanging out with people that you like, that you enjoy, that also nerd out about these same things, that'll put up the ones with you. This is what it's all about. This is why I collect. It's cool, all the gambling that you're hearing out there and the rah, rah, rah. But if I have a Bret Hart card that nobody else has, but I can talk about it with these guys, that's why I'm here.
It's all about nostalgia.
100%.
I think it's more than anything else in any other sport. I really think that wrestling is what puts you in a moment. It's not even the moment itself. It's the lead up to that moment. It's what happened after that moment. There's so much more about wrestling cards that you can be attached to, and the cards bring that to you. They're little tiny pieces of 3.5 by 2.5, a piece of art. That's what they are, to capture a moment.
One quick thing, like Shane mentioned something like about the excitement of landing a big card. Like, unlike a lot of the communities that I've been a part of prior to this, the wrestling card community, when something big happens, people rally and celebrate. Like, they come together, the community is awesome. They really help each other out in celebrating those things all over. It's incredible to see, and it's something that really made me want to be a part of this community even more, which was just the great people that are a part of it.
Well, Adam, to further your point, right? Like the community aspect of wrestling cards, in sports cards, people are just about what the dollar value, right? If we know somebody like a Bret Hart card, I'd rather sell it there for a couple of dollars cheaper because I know that it's going to somebody who's going to appreciate it. I might actually. But if you're selling to a collector, right? Like anytime I'm behind a table at a show and somebody comes up to me with a card, if it's something that I really want, I make sure to tell that person, this is never seeing the light of day again, right? And I'm not doing that looking for a discount. I'm not doing that looking for anything. But I know for me, there's something to be said about when somebody wants a card because they actually want the card versus, oh, I want this for this price so I can turn around a half hour later and make this price for it. And I think that's apparent in wrestling cards more so than any other type of card collecting.
Nailed it.
Yep. So speaking of selling stuff, Ryan over there, you've been really involved a lot in the last couple of years since AEW got in the market, and with Upper Deck picking up that license and introducing e-cards, which for me is something new for me as a collector. I never got into that kind of stuff. I always want physical, tangible stuff. How does that world work? How is that changing? How are collectors buying into that, and wrestling card collectors buying into that?
Well, I think that question as how has EPAC and Upper Deck changed cards is there's a couple different ways you can look at it. One is they've provided an online card shop for their products. So you don't need to drive to a store anymore. And if you don't have a local card shop, you have one online. The problem that Upper Deck has had with releasing wrestling cards is that they're not releasing wrestling cards. That's the issue. Ever since 2021 AEW came out, which took wrestling by storm because those boxes at one point were $250 a box. A Kenny Omega dotted line signature sold for $2,500. And everyone was like, no, it didn't. And then the seller came on and was like, here's the PayPal receipt. Yeah. Yes, it did. And so that's when AEW arrived. And AEW arrived with such a fervor, but Upper Deck didn't capture it. They let it lapse. And so the next set they put out, so they put out 2021 AEW, I believe it was on January 6th, 2022. And the only reason I know that is because, no jokes, my birthday is January 6th.
My condolences.
So every time I listen to the news, I hear about my birthday, every single time. And then in November of 2022, they put out AEW Spectrum, which is a mid-level. It was like $300 a pack with a couple hits. It completely bombed. The set completely bombed. It really should have been like $75 a pack, and it just died. And so once the actual product arrives in stores, there's about a 6 to 8 week delay to get it into EPAC. And your window for hitting the best stuff out of EPAC is the first 3 to 6 days it's released on EPAC because everybody is opening it. And so I kind of give the analogy that if you ever play poker and you play live and you see a 4 of a kind, you're kind of like, whoa, that almost never happens. But if you play online, you see it all the time because there's thousands of tables just going. And the odds will dictate that you'll see those hands. It's the same with EPAC. It's not one guy in a store opening 2 boxes. It's 1,000 people opening 10 packs at a time. Huge. Boom, 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 boom. And the hits come fast and furious, and then the product dries out. So Upper Deck, they really, I mean, if they're going to do anything with AEW, they need to start releasing more products in a more timely schedule. Because if you look at Panini's coming out every 2 to 3 months with something. And pretty much they're all winners at this point.
Yeah.
So the other thing I don't like about EPAC, so EPAC, are the cards digital? Yes, they are. Parts of them are digital. Typically in a base product, you will get digital cards. If you get 5 of the card or 10 of the card, you can then combine it into a foil parallel, which is then now a live card. Now Spectrum's different. Spectrum's expensive, so they give you every card. So there are different ways to like level up your cards on EPAC, but the inserts, the autographs, the memorabilia, they are live cards. You can have them shipped to you. And I do actually have some here at the end I'd like to give you just to see what the product is. One of the biggest problems that I've seen with EPAC is they don't adjust their pack prices to the market. So 2021 AEW is $12.99 a pack on EPAC, but you can buy a box right now for probably like $75, which is 16 packs. So you do the math. So that product sits there. It sits there dead. It's never going to sell, and that's an issue. The good news is that when they make the products for digital for AEW platform, they actually make sets and inserts and autographs specifically for the e-pack that you cannot get in a live box. So you do have the option of getting different cards. If I were Upper Deck, I wouldn't even print real cards anymore. I would go straight to e-pack with every single release. Every release would be e-pack. It's just an easier concept. It's easy to open packs. It's easy to buy packs. It's semi-easy to trade. That's depending on who you're trading with. But
the ComC piece of it is huge too.
Yeah. So what you do is when you sell your cards, you can either pay to have them shipped to you, or you can send them for free to check out my cards and sell them through their platform. So if you get a big hit and you don't want to sell it on Check Out My Cards, you can or on a fixed price Check Out My Cards, you can send it to Check Out My Cards auctions, and they actually charge a much lower percentage than if you were to wait 8 weeks, get the card, and then sell it yourself. So
it's a huge platform for all of cards, especially hockey and Marvel, especially with those big Upper Deck licenses. I think e-pack is probably one of the most attractive new platforms that has been introduced to the hobby for a number of different reasons. I was huge into the digital cards before.
Right.
And just adding the physical component was always something that the Topps digital app struggled with and everything like that. Getting a physical manifestation of the card you can open at 2 a.m. in your underwear in your basement.
Right. I mean, and you can. And that's the thing, is that it's a very, very easy, the interface is very well done, and it's an easy way to open packs. You just got to be careful, because I tell you what, $30 a pop, $40 a pop,
Yeah, it's
$50
easy.
a pop.
Monopoly
It's like
money.
pulling the jackpot handle over and over again. So in moderation. But I like the platform itself. I just wish that Upper Deck was more, did more with
More
the license.
availability.
I mean, we're waiting on 2 products now, Allure and what's the other one? Metal. I mean, yeah, people are clamoring for Metal, and it's been delayed and delayed and delayed. Upper Deck, if they're going to be serious in the wrestling card market, they need to get on this horse and make these products.
Thanks very much, Ryan. Before we go to questions, you'll notice some of us are wearing these white T-shirts that say Chicago Main Event. I'm going to let Mr. Adam Gelman talk about what we got planned for tomorrow night and give you guys a bit more information on Main Event 2023, and then we'll get to your questions.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't heard, we are having a wrestling-themed community event tomorrow at the Hyatt Regency at 8 p.m. We are going all out for this event. It's officially sponsored by Panini. We're having a ton of people come, be a part of the community, trade, do whatever you want to do as part of the wrestling community. I talked earlier about the growth and everything that we did. Kevin has been instrumental in helping bring this more giveaways and stuff like that. There's a ton here for this event. If you want to be a part of it, please email Chicago Main Event 2023 at gmail.com. We are approaching capacity, so we have enough space for a limited amount of people, and it's filling up to a point where we're going to have to start cutting it off likely pretty soon. So if you haven't reserved your spot for tomorrow, please email that address, because we need to have you on the list. Come to the Hyatt. We have an exclusive trading card set that's going to be offered. Tony did a great job printing those up. It's going to be the event of the year. It says on the back of our shirt, the biggest night in wrestling cards. We ain't lying. So,
Yeah, and I'll tell you, because I'm handling the reservations. If you want that card set, we only have 100 card sets, so you have to be there when we open, because I think we're going to get a big rush there in the beginning. So when we were first putting this together, we discussed that we'd be happy with what, 40 people?
30, 40.
We're like, if we could get 30 people, this thing would be rocking, and we are closing in on 150. So
the response has been incredible.
It's just absolutely insane. And one of the responses I'm getting from people is finally, wrestling cards are getting their due. And I'm telling you, if you're here tomorrow night, make it. Be there. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be fun.
Yep.
And I just want to, again, thank Panini for the help that they've done in being the official sponsor of this. The giveaways that they're providing are amazing. Tracy Hackler, Scott Pruscio were instrumental in getting us what we needed for this event. So huge shout out to the folks over at Panini for being so open to supporting the wrestling market and the wrestling card community. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, Panini did a huge amount of work for this for us, and they really contributed a lot. I also want to thank Chad from Sports Card Junction and Ryan Bannister from RBI Crew 7, instrumental in getting this off the ground. Couldn't have done it without those guys just helping us work through all the different pieces of the National and how to get this event up for all the wrestling collectors that are attending.
Thanks very much, guys.
One last thing for the trade night. I mentioned the Vince and Roman Superfractor earlier. I don't bring those out often, but I decided to bring them out for this show. So if that's not reason for you to come, I don't know how else to get you there. So.
Get a picture taken with them. Thanks very much, guys. So we're going to put it out to you guys now. If you have any questions about wrestling cards or want to speak to any of us in general, please, by all means.
Any questions?
Questions?
I think the biggest takeaway for wrestling cards and what I hope sparks across the hobby, right, is like you see the guys here and you see what they collect, and everybody has the specific things that they collect. At the end of the day, elevating the hobby and getting the hobby to grow overall is about collecting what you like. And it doesn't have to be dollars and cents. Whether you're a Bret Hart guy, whether you're a Becky Lynch guy, if you're collecting what you like and enjoying collecting, it just makes it that much more fun. So that's really the gist of it for that.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Dallas Mavericks jersey right there. You. Hey, right here. You watch wrestling? No. All right, you make me a promise?
Get the table.
When you get back home, watch an episode. Give it a shot, okay? Seriously, come up here and get this card. Come get this card. So this is part of the Upper Deck e-pack platform. They are real cards. This is not a magic trick. They're not digital in my hand. One of the cool sets they put out is this new arrival set for AEW. Anytime a new wrestler debuts, they make a card for a limited time. So this one's Mark Briscoe, one half of the Briscoe brothers. Unfortunately, his brother passed away recently. So this is a cool card. So go ahead. Watch an episode.
So for everybody out there, what is one of the things that you remember about being a wrestling fan growing up or right now? Let's shout it out. Anybody got anything out there?
We saw it back there.
DX?
There we go.
DX.
Yeah, let's do it.
If you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks, buddy. Anybody else? What? WrestleMania, yeah. For those who have the pleasure of going to one, have you been to a WrestleMania? It is unlike anything I have ever seen in my entire life. There are people from all over the world. It's such an amazing event. I think the last I heard, I'm from Minneapolis, I heard that WrestleMania might come to Minneapolis the year after Philly, so that's insane. Oh, there we go. We getting some woos? All right. Woo! Who's got the loudest woo?
There we go. Who said woo?
Hey.
No, who says it?
I got him right here. Come on up here. Come on up here.
Hey, he's got a card for you.
You got a card. What about you, LA Dodgers hat? Yeah, you. Nice. You watch wrestling? You do? Which one do you watch? WWE, AEW?
Who's your favorite wrestler? All time.
Yeah.
Do your best Ultimate Warrior right now. Show us his entrance. What do you got? Come on, shake those ropes.
Come on, shake the ropes.
On.
Shake the ropes.
It is.
Yeah.
All right, love it.
But see, this is what we're talking about with wrestling. You know, it connects with people in such a way. I mean, it really does. And the thing I like about wrestling is, you know, wrestlers, they're etched in time. You know, it's not like they can have a bad season. I mean, they can have a bad gimmick, they can have a bad run, but the legends are truly legends, and they'll always be legends. So, I mean, it's really just, one of my favorite memories is watching Stone Cold catch Shawn Michaels' Sweet Chin Music, telling him to go somewhere, spinning him, and then Mike Tyson coming in with the fastest 3 count in the history of wrestling that actually made Stone Cold mad. So, you know, you have these moments that resonate with you. So, you know, if you're not watching wrestling now, give it a shot, turn it on.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, what's your favorite Jason Dominguez catchphrase? Exactly. How many did we just say for all the different wrestlers? There's nothing like it. It is the best entertainment media on the planet. It's wild. It doesn't make any sense, but it's amazing. And you can collect cards with men and women in tights on cardboard. Come on now.
Does Trevor Lawrence have a catchphrase? What about Justin Herbert? Does he have a catchphrase? Now that I know that athletes have catchphrases,
That would be great. Someone got up to the plate and cut a promo before they.
yes, we need baseball walk-up promos. Yes.
I guess Kirk Cousins.
Let me talk
has
to
one.
you. I'm gonna hit a home run right now. Yeah.
I mean, you know, honestly, baseball can't get any more boring, so I'm all for it. It's like, but
Hey, we all have these things tied to our youth, our growing up. I mean, I remember the first time I rented a wrestling movie or like a wrestling video back when they were still on videotape.
Mm-hmm.
My brother is 3 years younger than me, and you can see I'm a big guy, obviously. Immediately, I was probably 6. My brother was 3. We were doing leg drops on my mom's bed, and we literally trashed the room. And this was after one video.
That says a lot about you right now, though.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. After one video, like that's what drives people. It's such an.
I hit my brother with a rude awakening,
Oh my god!
and I thought he was dead. Like, he laid there on the bed just moaning. And if you don't know what it is, the back of the head goes on the shoulder, and then you sit straight down with their head. Of course, being 7 years old, you don't realize that they're stopping it, but you know.
I gave my kids a trampoline because to get their energy out during COVID. They were doing rock bottoms on the trampoline day one.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, we had trampoline wrestling.
Yes.
And we would come out and we would shoot off fireworks. And
Oh my god!
don't shoot off fireworks in the wintertime on dead grass because it lights your parents' yard on fire.
Is there video of this?
I want to see this.
There's video somewhere. But what we would do is we went to my friend's church and we got their folding tables and folding chairs. We went to Home Depot and picked up aluminum trash cans, and that's what we did.
I feel like you wrestled the Young Bucks at one time.
And we had a little neighborhood wrestling federation, what do you call it? And
That's
we'd come out
amazing.
to our music and our gimmicks, and, you know, we were smashing people with, like, the whole thing was don't try this at home. We just ignored that. And I actually have a friend of mine who had chipped his tooth because I hit him with a folding chair. So,
Nice.
again, don't try that at home, but lots of great memories growing up with that.
What else you guys at? Yeah. Oh yeah, let's talk about the Rock. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we go right back to the late. The question was, how far back does wrestling cards go? Gentleman mentioned he had some Stampede card wrestling. And I was going to mention that I'm an archivist. Tony and I are wrestling card historians. They go right back to the late 1800s with what they call cigarette tobacco cards. And there's been wrestling cards throughout the decades, post-war cards that we get into stuff like Parkhurst, that was made up in Canada where I'm from. Then, of course, into the 80s when Hulk Hogan became big, the Wrestling All-Stars, the top sets. So there's been a very, very rich heritage of wrestling. But something very big happened a few months ago in our hobby. And that was a card for the first time sold for 6 figures, and that was the Rock Prism 2022 Black, sold for $126,000, more than doubled the previous record, and it's something that got the entire community.
TMZ covered it. TMZ actually posted a story. So TMZ Sports, everybody knows what TMZ is, actually covered this sale. It was The Rock's first, like, 6-figure anything. Like, he's had cards sell for, what, $84,000 too? This was a wrestling-themed card selling for 6 figures. Ryan and I were on a video before 2022 Prism came out, and we said this set could have a 6-figure card in it. We thought it would be 5-10 years down the road. No, it happened this year.
And honestly, I was shocked. I thought that card, when it got to 40, I was like, wow.
Were you sitting up watching that all night too?
I was following the text stream back and forth.
The group text, yeah.
Watching the bids just keep going up.
I mean, it's just
every 5 minutes.
I just knew every time my phone went ding, 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 ding that something was happening. So, but I got a question. I got a question for Shane. Give Shane the microphone.
Yeah, Paul was saying, so like we had predictions. Like, I remember Paul's wrestling card price guide.com. If you haven't seen him, his site, go check it out. It's awesome. Ton of wrestling card information. His main focus is pricing. And he said, what do you think this card's going to go for? And I said, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000. And then it gets to $20,000. It gets to $30,000. Paul sends me a message like, this is going to be a long night. And it was like, I had no idea that this thing was going to sell for six figures. Beyond excited that it did, because wrestling cards were put on the map for the first time in a long time. We've had big sales. Hogan sold a ton of nice cards. There's been a lot of big sales. Drake, obviously, has been the purveyor of a few of those, but nothing like this. And to see that it went to a guy that was getting into high-end wrestling cards for the purpose of collecting those cards was awesome. So Raspy Slabs was the confirmed buyer. He has a couple of partners that he works with on a few different pieces of wrestling. Like, I believe, there's rumors going around that similar people bought the other Rock 101. But either way, like, I think the challenge that people face with wrestling cards is comparing it to other examples and really figuring out, okay, if this card is worth $100,000, does that mean that this card should be also worth $50,000?
Nope.
But not realizing The Rock is a generational superstar, probably one of the most widely known people in the world.
Yep.
So I wanted to start with Shane. What was the first product you opened? You can remember opening.
Good question.
And why Bret Hart?
So you actually touched on it a little bit. When I first got into wrestling cards, the first thing I did was seek out Bret Hart's rookie card. That was a no-brainer for me. But the first product I ripped was actually the AEW product you mentioned earlier that Upper Deck put out in 21. I mean, I love both WWE and AEW. I'm a huge AEW fan though, and I was super pumped to rip that, and that's really helped kick off the diving in even deeper.
That 2021 AEW, it's a really good product. It's a nice base product. It really is.
Yep, 100%.
Because it has that mix of, it's a base product, but there are a couple car payment cards in there. Yep. Like multiple car payments, I call them. There's a couple $1,000, $2,000 cards in that product. I've sold them. So, I mean, I've hit 4 or 5 $1,000 cards on EPAC. So we won't talk about how much I spent, though.
I've been a little bit swamped today, and I haven't been able to concentrate on anything I want to buy. But I bumped into somebody at the RBI Crew 7 table. Again, shout out to them for being so instrumental in the event tomorrow. But the guy pulled out several AEW autograph cards, including a Sting authenticated card. It's the only card I still have on my mind that I really want to get my hands on that. It would be really nice to have that. It's a really great product. It was a little overpriced when it first came out. It's gotten to where it probably should be, but it's a fantastic product.
Yeah, and RBI Crew, I purchased, so I was buying Macho Man like everything, like even the stickers that have, there's 5 stickers with the same picture, but the backs are different, and some has a copyright, and some has a period. I was buying all the and it finally got to the point where I was like, it's just too much. Because honestly, I'm not going to outbid like Jamie Wallace for the 101s. I'm not going to. I'm not going to spend that kind of money on those cards. So I really streamlined my collection down to cards numbered out of 10.
Okay.
So I figure that's enough for everybody to kind of get a piece who wants one. And then I also collect the real rare stuff like the Galactics from Revolution and stuff like that. So, but I bought the Macho Man Prism Gold from RBI Crew, and they cut me a really great deal. And I mean, if you're looking for wrestling cards, go check them out. Seriously.
They've got, their stash over there is incredible. I mean, they've got, I think, four cases full of wrestling cards
and
right
it's
now.
All the way from low end to
There's something for everybody.
To don't let your wife find out.
Yeah, like that Super Fractor John Cena they've got.
Right. So, Drake, what was the first product you opened?
Yeah, so getting back into wrestling, the first product I remember opening was 2020 Topps Chrome. Like that kind of stuff.
That's one of my
I
favorites.
did that. I did the 2021 Chrome. But just quite frankly, I don't really rip a lot of product. That's just, like I said before, I just go find the singles I want, and I go after the singles, and that's kind of what works for me. But it was also, too, I remember buying boxes of 2020 Topps Chrome, and they were like $100. So that to me was, it was great value there. It was reasonable, and then you start seeing boxes and they creep up into 300 to 400 to 500, you almost have to pull something good, or it's not going to make it worth it. So, and that was really the value that I saw in wrestling cards at the very beginning. Was again, is I could buy a box of Topps Chrome WWE for $100, or I could go buy a Rock Chrome Gold Refractor for 80, right? And I'm like, if I open the box, odds of me getting one of those cards are low. So let's just go buy the card. And that's kind of the way that I've always kind of operated.
That's kind of a unique approach, because a lot of us just kind of rip and rip and rip and rip and
Well,
rip.
I think you have to rip and rip and rip, and then look at those and go, what have I done?
Yes, thank you.
And then,
exactly.
like, I spent $1,000. Why didn't I just buy the card I wanted and have $500 in my pocket?
Yeah.
But that's the point. That's the point of opening. So,
So speaking of ripping, I do know that there is 2023 select boxes
Tomorrow.
here, and they're going to be getting open tomorrow. So I'm going to grab some for the event tomorrow.
That's going to be
So
awesome.
Come
Yes.
check that out.
Select is going to be great. Hey, Tony, Paul, you guys have been to these shows before. Tony, you said you've been to a number of these. Like, you guys both are probably the foremost historians and archivists. I think you use that word. Like, seeing all of this now in this sort of situation, like, what's your take on this year's show compared to the past?
It's a little overwhelming. Yeah.
Okay.
I think for me it's a little overwhelming to see where I started as a collector. And for reference, my first packs I ever opened up was 1985 Topps.
No, awesome.
you win.
So I was I was 16 years old, working at a liquor store that also sold deli and
You were 16 years old working at a liquor store?
That's
Yep.
not cool.
Casa de Liquor in Yorba Linda, California.
Oh, he's shouting them out, too. We're going to get him shut down.
And the sales rep came in and brought in a sales sheet for GPK, and on the flip side of it was WWF. And I said, "What? Wrestling cards? I gotta get some." And I've been hooked ever since.
Yeah.
So
So you've had a big deal happen to you in the last year or so.
yeah,
You want to tell people about that?
which big deal? I've had lots.
You opened a store, dude.
Your store.
Well, I opened a store. Yes, I opened a wrestling themed store in Phoenix, Arizona. So I go in there every single day, and I ask myself, why the hell did I do this? I really do. So,
But you
it-
did that because you were able to do a
because
huge sale.
Good point. Again, I don't put the connection together. I did
on, dude.
I did a TV show for Card Life TV. If anybody's ever watched that show, it's first and only show out there. It's all about trading cards. It's mostly sports, but the producer found out that I did wrestling cards and wanted me to be on the show. So we talked about it, and I got on the show, and I'm like, okay, I'm not quite sure how to promote my store, but I founded my store because of the sale of a trading card. I sold one Hulk Hogan card from 1982 Cosmos in Japan that funded my initial capital to open up a store that I've been
so
thinking
cool.
about opening up for years and years and years. And I just happened to stumble upon it in my storage unit one day.
Hey, you're actually not the only person on the panel who has a store, too. I know, Kevin, you own your own. Well, how does it work? It's complicated. All right. Yeah, but Kevin at New York Roadshow, you are a humongous wrestling collector that may be one of the ones that's lowest on the radar. You just can't post all of your stuff because you've got sports there as well. But I know how big you are for wrestling cards. Like, talk about like what your relationship has been, because you own a store too.
So essentially, being in a sports card shop every day, we have wrestling product coming out now fairly regularly. And if you know about wrestling, you're super excited about the product. If you don't know about wrestling, why are there wrestling trading cards, right? There's no happy medium. There's sort of, so the one thing that we've seen now, though, in the past year is somebody coming in, oh, that's cool. I used to watch wrestling as a kid. Oh, that box is significantly more affordable than its sport counterpart. Sure, I'll give it a try, right? Prism, for example. WWE Prism, $200, $250, right in that range. Football Prism last year got up over $1,000 a box. It's an easier pill to swallow when you're buying a cheaper box if the box isn't necessarily good, but day-to-day store life, putting wrestling cards out on the display case, right? Having wrestling autographs of big-name wrestlers that don't sell for a crazy amount of money comparatively to their sports counterparts. You could have somebody come in, with $30 in their pocket and walk out with a top tier wrestler's autograph. You can't have that in sports cards.
That's awesome. You know, one of the other things that I think we talked about the community a lot. Paul, you were instrumental in creating the first ever wrestling card collector trading set, which sold out in, what, 2 days? Insane. Like, you can pass a mic back down. Like, oh, Tony has one. Awesome. Paul went and surveyed 50 different wrestling collectors, and they all got their own trading card. Talk a little bit about that, Paul, like, and what you were able to put together there.
You know, it's not just me. Tony was instrumental as well. It was really a tag team effort. But it was just mind-boggling that the response was what it was, that so many people were keen to see themselves on a card, which a lot of people don't have. And now that you mention it, I'm going to formally announce that Series 2, we've decided, Tony and I, actually about half an hour ago, that yes, we are going to proceed with the next version of it. So stay tuned on social media for that.
Series 2, hold on. So I know there's been multiple requests to have their own trading cards. Kevin, I know you want your own. Like, he's asked multiple times where he's a sad puppy dog because he doesn't have a card in
Hey, real
Series
quick,
1.
who's in Series 1?
I should
Sorry,
just say,
Kevin. So Series 2 is going to be big. When is it going to be available, do you know?
Well, the way we're going to go about it, we're going to talk about it a little bit later tonight, is there's going to be a nomination process that you're going to be involved with, and that.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so that this time around it's going to be more of a community effort, that I'm going to be putting words out to key influencers in the hobby and saying, who did I miss last time?
Oh, that's awesome.
Who should be on there? And then you'll go out to them.
Yeah.
Just trying to make sure that we didn't leave anybody out. But it's an exciting project, and I'm glad that it went as well as it did.
Yeah, stay tuned to social media for announcements on that. If you feel like there's somebody that should be included, message Paul, let him know. If you want to be a part of this set, message Paul, let him know. We're trying to get as many collectors into this as possible because it's such an awesome project. Thank you for putting together the first time.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about the wrestling community is when that set came out, everybody who wasn't in it was like, why am I not in it?
Yeah.
Well, we can fix that.
They actually care. Like, you care, which is it's a big deal.
We'll get most of them in the next set.
I mean, like, it's so cool to have your own trading card if you're a card collector, right? We all dream of that day, but, you know, anyways, thank you, Paul. That's a real. I'm glad to hear Series 2 is coming out.
Yeah. So I think that's it for us. Once again, thanks to Shane, to Drake, to Kevin, to Tony, to Adam, Ryan. Thank you guys for listening to us. Wrestling cards, guys, they're great. They're out there. We got a great community, you know.
Thank you. If you're going to the main event tomorrow, I do have card number 6 for you, so stop up here. Tony, go ahead.
And for Zan at home, just for you, Zan, wrestling cards rule.
Yes, Zan! Thanks, guys.
Thank
It
you
was
very
great.
much.